Good morning. I'm early. I know I'm a little bit early this morning. I wanted to hurry up, get the show on the road. Speaking of road, I went outside and started up the truck and make sure there was no extra dingers and bells and whistles and or air leaks or fluid leaks, and we're in pretty good shape. So at some point, I need to go take that truck out for a little bit. I don't want a truck sitting for too long, right? And then I got to take my trailer to get DOT inspection. But anyways, good morning. Let's see. Let's remove that. Man, the virtual background on my end is flickering. I don't know why it does that. So it's kind of annoying. It's kind of distracting. So we'll do this for a minute. I had a lot of good responses from Saturday night's live feed. We had about 5 people in. We had Top Dog, we had Jeffrey Like, Nomadic Brit, I think, came in there, or maybe that was Sterling's live feed. Anyways, Stuart was in there, Jeffrey Like, trying to remember who else was in there. It was a good live feed. It was a good discussion. Normally, I don't do a whole lot of trucking talk on Saturday, but but that's fine. I mean, that's what open forum means, right? When I do an open forum. I hope everybody is well. I mean, there's a lot of negativity and I don't know, dismay right now, but that's just the nature of what life is. And so, through faith and perseverance, you get through it. I mean, that's just how it is. So we'll get to the comments here. We'll get to some low board stuff, and then we can talk about different strategies. It's Winterman, Old Man Winter, Winterman, Old Man Winter has started up there in the UP and up there towards Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and parts of the other side of the lake there on Michigan. Calling for a foot of snow in some of those places, so that's crazy. And then we've got a freeze warning. And Dave, if you're watching this, we're like 17 degrees below normal. So this ain't a normal thing for us. So and they're worried about the snow taking down power lines. Excuse me, up in the north there. So start watching your weather, guys, guys and gals, because you got to figure out and time your stuff with the storms and try not to get shut down or try not to get in them, and turn your CB on. Turn your CB radio on so you can possibly have a better chance of avoiding those pileups that occur on the interstates. And that's a trigger point for some reason. Be like, I won't use the CB because it's so horrible. Roar. Like, dude, chill. It's not that bad. If you're not on it and the trolls aren't on it, there's nobody on it. So don't let it trigger you. You're on Facebook, so you do that, but you won't turn your CB radio on for safety. So yeah, people are strange. My CB radio video, which is the oldest video on this channel, does very well, and every now and then I can tell when YouTube's pushing it because it will. I'll get like 4 or 5 comments in a row, and then it'll stop, and then I'll so. But anyways, excuse me. It's going to be interesting in the next couple of months. I mean, we've been saying that for a while, but that there's no reason to. Yes, fuel is high and rates have dropped a little bit, or quite a bit, but it's nothing you can't handle, right? I mean, we'll get through this storm just like any other storm. It's trucking, right? Trucking it will persevere. You bob and weave and you pivot when you need to, and you make your adjustments, and that's what that's what I'm here to do, is find the people that have been through this before and talk to them. And you got to realize that the majority of people that are dealing with this down market now have never dealt with one before. and which is why they're freaking out. They went out and overpaid on equipment, and yeah. So I mean, a sustainable business model is what you need. So, anyways, let's do some shout outs, and let's get to chatting, shall we? Grafton, good morning. Fistful of dollars. What's up, Bill? Randy, good morning, everyone. Mrs. Nevada Truck and Trails, good morning. Tennessee Trucking, my mom sent me here. I believe I sent you where you're at. Actually, Jeff did. So hopefully we get that situation all situated out, and you get out of the snow, because I think it's supposed to snow where you're at by Wednesday. Cattle hauling, good morning. Cascade, good morning. James Clark, good morning. Low boards ain't our friend right now. Sure they are. Sure they are. If you're not, if I mean, what else, how else are you going to find your loads? Unless you got a direct customer or some brokers. And look, that's a strategy. Man, this flickering is just, you guys have no idea what this flickering looks like on my end. That's crazy. If you're an anytime, anywhere person, find the broker that you have the best relationship with and just use them as a dispatcher. Have them look 2 or 3 loads ahead. Maybe he's got several clients in different areas, and he can kind of utilize you to keep freight moving. That's a strategy that I've used in the past. I'll give you a perfect example here in a minute, but well, no, we'll do it now. So there was a big broker rep that I was utilizing, and it made my life a lot easier. And so a friend of mine who was signed on with another carrier, he was struggling. He had just joined the spot market, had a fairly decent sized truck payment, and after about 2 loads, he called me and was just, he was over it already. And so luckily him and his wife were meeting me up in Springfield. They were getting their APU work done, so we went and had breakfast, and I brought my notebook, and I brought my little bag of tricks, and I said, "Here's what I do." And so I hooked him up with my big brokerage rep, and I asked my friend, I said, "Hey, so you had to make like 25 phone calls today, right?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Imagine doing that on every single load." He's like, "I'll pull my hair out. I can't do that." All right, well, let's solve that problem. So within an hour, he had his whole week booked with this guy, and he was thanking me, and now he was on a better track. And the only issue was is that his carrier still complained, and and he ended up leaving that carrier because of how he was treated. But that's the thing when you run the spot market, is you have everybody that will tell you how they do things, and then half of them will tell you that you're doing your stuff wrong. And all I do is point out what's obvious, right? Like, hey, do you really want to make 25 phone calls every time you got to book a load? If it's yes, then you're good to go. If it's no, then here's a strategy. But a lot of people are very judgmental, and like, well, I wouldn't have done that load. Okay, well, tell me why you wouldn't have done that load. What could I have done better? Not just be hateful. And that's the bad part about the interwebs, social media. Old school, new school. 1 delivery done. 1 more at 2,200. That's a long day. Pam, what's up? Hopefully your truck's dealt with this week. Chucky, how you doing? Good morning, Springfield, and to you, Steve. I don't think there's anybody from Springfield watching, but good to see you, my friend. Sherry Lynn, good morning. Thematic Brit, what's up? Fud in the air. Good morning, Shannon. I saw your text. I haven't watched that video that you sent me. yet. So James Clark, not negative here, going down the Packard to lease today. Wow, James Clark, that'd be cool. Hopefully, hopefully you're getting out of there with your shorts still on. Cascade, 40 degrees here. Yeah, it's actually going to be colder than that here. Everyone get a radio and turn it on. Absolutely. Pale Rider TV, what's up? Pale Rider is an advocate for the CB radio. Stuart, what's happening, fella? Let's see. Sterling, good morning. Sterling is in competition for long live feeds. I stepped in a little bit at the beginning of his live feed yesterday, and then I stepped in while I was starting the truck up. I freaked everybody out because I was actually in the truck when I went on his channel. We talked about school bus driving, ironically, and then I had to go because I had a phone call. That's the story of my life. And that's why I do these early live feeds, not later live feeds. And then I saw that he was still live right before I went to bed last night, and I saw that the final time was like 5.5 hours. So good on you, Sterling. I can't talk for 5 hours. I just can't do it. I could bring Sage and CDN on. I let them do all the talking. You know, they have their discussion and use my platform. It's awesome. Snow equals less trucks, more opportunities. James, that is true, but it'll be interesting to see how this winter plays because rates in the Southeast have already tanked. Now, there was a point earlier this year where Charlotte and Atlanta were the hottest markets in the country, rates and volumes. But what I saw last week did not sit well with me because volumes are not equaling good rates. So we can go over our theories why. Other YouTube channels have talked about it. And to me, it matters that of the why, but it's still something I can't control, right? So it's just something you have to be aware of. So don't have a false confidence to going up in an area that's got good volumes because it may not equate to good rates. And if fuel keeps going up, then your strategy might be the states that have the lowest priced fuel. But yes, if you're wanting to take a load up to the UP, you've got some negotiating leverage. I'm gonna nap another couple hours. I worked way too hard for a Sunday. Keep it down over there. CDN, hopefully all owner operators, or if you have your own authority, you have a TMS software or spreadsheet to track revenue and expenses, and you can get a picture about your business to make smart decisions. That is the comment of the day right there. Comment of the day. Yep, that strategy with the broker is my thing right now. If I can only get out of here. Hopefully your truck's dealt with fairly soon, Shannon. And that's the worst part about, I mean, it's bad enough that you got to pay, person's got to pay like 5-digit numbers to make a repair, but then to lose a week or 2 weeks of revenue, it's unsustainable after a period of time. I've seen many trucks bankrupt people or just take their will to live away. I mean, there's too many truck repairs will frustrate anybody that is trying to be a business owner, and they just give it up. So I know that my Peterbilt was in that direction. It was very depressing when I was down with the turbo, but at the same time, if something happened right after that, and then after that, and then after that, I wouldn't have a truck right now. I went through a lot of trials and tribulations with that Peterbilt, and it was a Peterbilt 387. I liked the truck, okay, but it was an older truck, and it, between the fire and the APU and the frozen fuel filter that I dealt with one year, that was my first road breakdown as an owner op. It was, man, it just makes you a tougher person going through that kind of stuff. And I know that there's owners that have been through way worse than I've been. And so the willingness to continue on with the business is something that every single one of you watching this video is going to struggle with at one point or another. So my advice to you is to put yourself in a situation where that will is easier to feed. Set yourself up with a solid foundation. You got to have a solid foundation in your bank. You got to have a solid foundation in your platform, and you got to have a solid foundation at home. I know people that were successful owner operators, but things fell apart at home, and it puts them out. I saw that all the time at Schneider. So, anyways, we got our coffee. And I hope you have coffee too. Let's see. Carriers obtaining direct customers is a long-term game. It's not the easiest path, but can work long-term. Absolutely. Most of the successful people that I know, that's what they're doing. And back to Shannon's comment, what Shannon's in the spot market, but she's got a limited amount of brokers that she can use. So it's even more important for her to utilize that strategy that I just placed forth. 1,000 ways to do it, and everybody's right and everybody's wrong, right, Cascade? The carrier I'm leased on with is based in Springfield, so that counts, right? There you go, Brian. Sure. Is it the carrier in Springfield, or is it just one of the smaller ones? One of my competitors. Truckers Anonymous, 31 here. Regardless if you're a broker or carrier, obtaining direct customers requires time and commitment and equipment. I'm seeing a lot of stuff on the low boards. Hey, we've got this dedicated count, must have 10 trailers to drop. That kind of stuff. So, and I'm seeing a lot of ghost loads where they post a load and it doesn't exist. They're just looking for dedicated trucks. So those opportunities are out there. It seemed like there was another trend. It'll have to pop in my head that I'm seeing that didn't sit well with me. That everybody needs to be aware. But it's. I almost did a little short video on it and I didn't. I'm seeing a lot. Well, it's not the thing I was thinking about, but I'm seeing a lot of short loads that are either drop trailer or they are 2-day transit for 400 miles with a 300-mile run revenue. So, be really cautious and make sure you read your rate cons, because somebody somewhere is going to sneak in. It's a drop trailer and you didn't realize it. If it's a really good rate or more than what you've been calling on, it's probably a drop trailer. And mind you that a lot of these retail outlets, the big box stores, the big W and the DG and the T, they're running out of room. They're not selling as much stuff. So there's a possibility that drop trailer loads are going to start popping up even more. Good morning, Truckers Anonymous. Out of the shop Friday afternoon and okay so far. Good deal. Knock on wood. Say a prayer. Truck with Diabetes. What's up, Cash? How's it going? I saw you did a video about eggs. I need to watch that. I used to cook eggs in the truck. Certainly did over 9 hours. I thought it was 5 hours. But maybe I looked at the number wrong. Maybe it was 9 hours and 5 minutes or something. Still too many trucks. Yep. I've been doing this since 87. Took a year off because of COVID. Haul LTL seafood as my backhaul. There you go. You've got it figured out then, and then you remember the old school, the old days, right? On the front end, I'll do LTL out of Salt Lake City. Oh, nice. So that pays better than your average load out of Salt Lake City, because Salt Lake can be kind of sketchy for reefer or van. Couldn't drop the load until tomorrow. Had to sit another 3 days after sitting in the shop for nearly a week. Wow. And see, and Pam's got a brand new truck. Okay. So you have to keep mindful of the things that are out of your control. And when you do a Walmart or Dollar General or Target load, that you can't just like reschedule to the next day. So, keep that in mind. If your truck's being kind of sketchy and you need to get it to a shop, don't do a Walmart load. So, because you might be sitting for a week if you miss your appointment. I got bacon, eggs, and green tea in the truck this morning. Feeling good about today. Good deal, man. And look, Cash is king, trucking with diabetes. He's got a lot of things figured out. So I suggest subscribing to both of his channels there. Not the big guy, a small reefer carrier, one of the best carriers in the industry, in my opinion. Good guys wear green. So, okay. I know who you were with then. Good deal, Brian. Good deal. That person's a great person. I've dealt with him. I've known him for a long time. Jeremy Rice says good morning. Everybody's saying hi to each other. Let's see. Road Less Travel, good morning. Everybody's talking 63 and young. You're about 13 years on me. But hey, that's a great attitude to have because people think that once you hit 50, it's downhill from there. And I'm actually in better shape now than I was, 5 years ago. So make that money, honey. If you have brokers who you have held loads during high rates in history, but now rates dropped in half, have a heart to heart with brokers. Say you understood low rates, but no money for repairs. And that look, a lot of people complain about how the brokers don't know our expenses. Our brokers don't know what it's like. Our brokers don't know, what it's like to sit on a load for 18 hours. Educate them on how much fuel costs. Educate them that you can't do a 600-mile load that picks up at noon on Monday and delivers at 4 a.m. on Tuesday. And there's no overnight parking at either place. Explain to them why that's not a good idea, especially if it's going to Atlanta or something like that. Educate these guys and gals that you talk to. And that's look, I've been preaching the relationship thing for a while. And so I was on the phone with one of my main brokers, and there was a load that I was discussing, and he's like, "Can you make that work?" I'm like, "Yeah, because I know I can spend the night there, and I know that shipper will load me early." I said, "But fuel's kind of up, so I'm going to need X amount for this, and we can pull that off for you." And we did, and it works, and so when he has flexibility to put some more money on it, he will. There were times when I didn't even ask for it, and he's like, "Hey, I did this. I put an extra $300 on this one for you," and it was a flawless load. It wasn't like, "Oh man, this poor chap. I'm gonna better give him some extra money." So that's where these broken relationships are vital right now, because dealing with the wrong broker on the wrong load could definitely give you some downtime. Charles, if he's still in here, he had a load that was a drop trailer. They had his trailer for 30 days. So I mean that's kind of you know dang cat. But that's just nature of how it is, right? Life halfway is 40. Says you. All right. So let's do some low board stuff. Let's look at some hot markets. And then if you guys want, we can put a link since we're early. I don't think I've got all my trucks booked up until. Well, I've got one. I got to wait on a trailer repair to see what's happening with that. But everybody else is booked until Tuesday and Wednesday. So we'll find those loads. I'm going to try to get the whole week laid out because wife and I are doing something this weekend. So I'm looking at the calendar. That's why I'm looking over here.
not just like "Durr." So all right, so we'll look at some rates as well. We'll do some rate um, deals. So there's the 123 low board. Uh, Full disclosure, I do promote them. 48065 is my code, and you can see these tools for yourself. A lot cheaper than the other low boards, who keeps raising their prices. I believe they've had the same price for a long time. So, all right, this is for Van. Now, this red in Arkansas, that's surprising to me because usually Arkansas is not too bad. Um, so that's for Van. Of course, New Jersey's still doing something out of the ports there, not as much as they were before, but it's still prominent. The normal big jump uptick that usually happens this time of year is a small uptick that's only in certain areas. If your business platform is 100% retail, you're probably going to suffer a little bit. If a large percentage of what you haul has to do with materials and things that people need, regardless of what the economy's doing or what time of year it is, that's the place to be. That's because now you're not dependent on other markets for your own. If you can get to that, then that's great. Look at what manufacturing is still strong and see if you can find the materials for that. Let's see. Let's look at reefer. Cat, you just came in. You tell it's getting cold. The cats don't want to stay out for more than 5 minutes. I'll let them sit out there for a minute. There's for reefer. While you guys take a look at that, we'll do some more shout outs. Twitch, what's up? Quick hit, good morning. Everybody saying hi. Sage is in the house. What's up? James Clark changed my main load board. The only thing I'm contemplating is factoring a small percentage of my loads. Well, check out Thunder Funding. Those people were great hanging out with them at Matt's. So, Fran, what's up? You can contact Jeffrey Like and tell you all about them. But this is reefer. So again, these states here where the snow is still pretty prominent. And look at Georgia kind of light up here. So that's kind of cool. But Alabama and Alabama is a dead zone for van and reefer, I've noticed. Like on the 123, they got 49 outbound and 87 inbound and 3 intrastate. That's a pretty low volume. And so we'll demonstrate here. So let's do where's our rate check here? All right, so let's do a load from we'll do Springfield, Missouri. Springfield, Missouri to Birmingham. Birmingham, Al. All right, so let's do reefer here. Get rate. Average rate is 321 going in. And there's your peaks and valleys right there. It went as high as 445 and went as low as 278. So even that low end is still not bad. I mean, look, there are differences in some of the rates on 123 versus DAT and versus Truck Stop versus Truck Smart, but I mean they're minor. and a lot of it's based off of posted rates. So you have to question the information. So, but the thing that I look at is not the amount, but how much the changed amount is, and also the fact that when you do a reverse, now we're doing Birmingham back to Springfield. Look how much lower that is, and so you have to know that that's going to be a lower market. So look how up and down that is. So that's what you have to pay attention to. Use the average rate lane rates as a marker of what to expect when coming out of an area. That way you're not surprised by, oh wow, they're only paying $1.40 coming out of this area. And so let's say you're in Wisconsin and you're looking at a load that goes from, say, Oshkosh to Jacksonville, Florida. Or no, we'll do Orlando. Now, if you're not new to the spot market, you know that you have to get it going in, but maybe you don't know that. Maybe you're new. Maybe you just did your first spot load today. Before you book that load, you have to look at the average lane rates. You start a new search and you look at the average lane rates coming out of Jacksonville so you can at least prepare for the worst case scenario. That's how that works. And then if you could develop relationships with the brokers that have that steady freight out of bad areas for a decent rate, then you're not fighting every Joe Schmo when you get down there. And so when you quote your lane, look at the lowest rate coming out of where you're wanting to go, and then add the two loads together. So we would add miles from Springfield to Birmingham and Birmingham back to Springfield, add both those line haul revenues together, and then do your math from there. Now, let's say that you're like, well, what's the best paying load coming out of Birmingham? Well, let's do that. So we go to the search. Because maybe we don't want to go right back to Springfield from Birmingham. Maybe we want to maybe another short hop that's not as bad on the rate. So let's do this. Birmingham. Oh, forgive me, I'm not a fast typist. Going anywhere. So let's we need reefer. Let's see, search. So there's our loads. So let's do the highest rate. 1,800 going to Deer. Guess what? It's going back to Florida, right? So the best rates are all going to Florida. Now here's one going to Texas, but I wouldn't do that. That's $1.75. That's not. I'm not doing that. Albertville, Alabama to Charleston, South Carolina. Loadsmith's got that, so let's click on that one. And so now we would want to work on what's the rates coming out of South Carolina. Oh, don't want to bid on it. And see, and they've got the postal rate right at the average. So you might be able to, depending on the situation, you might be able to talk them up. Like maybe it's a nighttime delivery, you can talk them up. But you're not going to have much leverage because you're in Alabama. So if so now, okay, this one's going to Charleston. So now we go to a new search and we look at Charleston. Going and then we'll do that one to Springfield. Maybe we're trying to figure out a triangle. No loads available. Oh, there's some. Oh wow. So guess what? Charleston might be an issue, right? So I mean that's and so you're not going to do that load to Charleston. even though it was one of the better paying loads coming out of there. So you go back to your recent searches, you click on the original one, boom. Now you're back to where you started to see what's the best paying load. So let's look at this. Here's one 361 a mile, but it's Alabama to Alabama. Can you do intrastate in Alabama? My note says you can't unless you got intrastate authority. So that's out. And then the rest of these aren't worth their time. $400, 400, 500, 600. So there's a lot of work when it comes to finding your own loads, and staying one step ahead. And then you might even like see if there's any loads going back to Springfield and seeing what they're paying. But that's what that rate check is for. So these are the things that you have to keep in mind when you're booking yourself. Let's look at Flatbed. Flatbed's been kind of weird. I've been doing fairly decent. Right now, we're just concentrating more on establishing relationships with brokers using the same strategy I did with Van with my Flatbed. And so far, it's working. But I noticed that on Sterling's feed and on my feed, Top Dog. I don't remember if he was Flatbed or not, but um, there's some rate cuts going on in that field too. So, and I've come across him myself. I mean, there was somebody that was wanting to do Bobcats multiple stops for $1.80 a mile. Like, no, multiple stops are supposed to be above what the market is paying, not below. Not 40% below what the regular loads are paying. Now I called on it. I didn't negotiate at that point because I felt the room and I was like, man, this dude either doesn't know what he's doing or he ain't budging. He's looking for that guy. And guys, I'm a part of a Flatbed page on Facebook, and they are showing some horrific load securements. Like people strapping down, not chaining, but strapping down coils. So be extra vigilant when the flatbedder passes you to make sure that they got. I mean, if they don't have, if it doesn't look right, then back it off. Give them room, let them go. And that's what happens. Everybody's like, oh man, I got to get out of the van because the rates are dropping, so I'm going to go to flatbed. But then a lot of them are not doing their homework. And so if I was a flatbed broker, and Sage, you can correct me if I'm wrong, which I think you've talked about this. I would want a truck that I trust. I would want a carrier that has their act together, not just some Joe Schmo that called me from a low board. Trucker's Voice, good morning. Trucking for Fun, good morning. James Clark, what low board do you use? Trucker's Voice, can you do Chicago to Indy dry van? Yes, I could do that. James Clark says 123. I was using an interstate truck stop. I mainly use two brokers, so he's on the same strategy. So let's do. Where are we going? Chicago to Indy. For what day? We'll just do it for today. Do van here. Search. A lot of loads. They keep loading. All right, so let's do the. A lot of times I'll filter this to the newest, and this board will actually auto refresh. You don't have to keep hitting refresh on this one. Let's do the highest rate. All right. Click on this one. A lot of times when you do the highest rate, it's usually something going to Washington or something like that. But they're above the average on this, so that might be something somebody fell off of. When's this pick up? Picks up today, so that might have been something that somebody dropped the ball on. So 368 a mile, 272 miles for $1,000 coming out of Chicago to Indy. That's or Ashley, Indiana. Probably get about 15 for that, maybe. I have decent luck with Axle Logistics. It just depends on how desperate they are and how good of a service record you got. Then you got this Hammond, Indiana to Indianapolis, Indiana, 161 miles. Oh, the van hotshot. I'm seeing a lot of this too. Is it a van or a hotshot? I mean, do they want a box truck? So we'll get rid of that one. That's a no go. Now, let's look at Pepsi here. Pepsi Logistics. Some people love them, some people hate them. And they've been, of course, this one doesn't show up, but they've been doing this like log into video chat. Like now they're doing video chats. So this is probably a load of either packaging or chips. The thing about chip loads is that a lot of them are floor loaded. So you might be looking at some downtime. But 18,000 pounds, more likely that's going to be packaging because chips don't weigh that much. I would call on that depending on the times. Now, here's what will happen. Okay, here it is. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Picks up at 8 o'clock today in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, going to Bluffton, Indiana. It delivers 100. Okay, this is 33 miles. Picks up today at 8 a.m., delivers tomorrow at 5 p.m. That's the stuff that is stupid. And unless you know the customers, look, I've got a driver that's the master of getting loaded and unloaded early. I mean, he pulls it off. Obviously, you can't do that with the box stores, but for the most part, he's been pulling it off. And that's a good rate for 33 miles. $900. But that's not 2 days worth of revenue, at least not in my world. Especially if it's cold or hot. You're idling the truck, don't have an APU. Why would you do that? That's the stuff that shouldn't even. I mean, who's going to choose that other than someone that's is? Are they going to find the one driver that lives in Bluffton, Indiana, that will just go home under that load? So I mean, that's the kind of stuff that can get kind of frustrating when you're looking at this stuff. You're like, why do they do that? You know, CDN has talked about how much homework he does on each of his loads, but not every broker's like CDN. Big Houston, what's up? CPAP, what's up? Sage agrees with me on my statement on load securement. They've never taken a class on load securement. Old international transport that Schneider bought out. Yeah. Chicago, Kansas City, Chicago. That's a good lane. That's a good one to do. Are you wanting that? Are you want that looked at? Quick hit? We could do that. So let's do rate check. Go to rate check here. And you can expand this menu, but I prefer to do it that way. So let's do Chicago. Chicago ill to Kansas Mo. Which, by the way, the Chiefs lost last night. That's dumb. Notice the Cowboys lost too. All right. All right. So Vivan, get rate. 201, 265, 295 is the high. So that's about right. And then return. Check this out. See what happens. A little bit lower, a little bit higher on the high, a little bit lower on the low, but the average is around the same ballpark. And again, I don't think I've ever done anything lower than the average on 123. So if you sit there and go, well, the dad's got it for, their average is like 365. Ah. Okay, well, good. But, at some point, the averages don't even matter. They're paying what they're wanting to pay. And I mentioned this on the small channel Saturday. Every single platform in every single area of the country, they were 20 to 40% off. I mean, down from the average lane rates if they posted the rates. And people that I know that do dedicated flatbed and reefer, we're seeing them trying to move loads for $400 to $500 less. Big Rick CO talked about it. So just be aware of that. Know your lanes. Know what you got. And having your own history. A lot of people like you. Have you ever done a load and then like 3 months later you've done that load? Like, oh yeah, I've done this load before. Have that stuff written down. That actually came in handy for me. I did a load last week that I'd done the week prior, and they were trying to lowball. I'm like, no, I just did this last week for this much. Oh yeah, well, okay, yeah, we'll give it to you for that. That's literally how that conversation went. But I know a lot of people are like, well, guess what? This week it's the X amount. And so if volumes are dropping, people, the brokers are going to hold on tighter to that money. Just know that. Load securement is 3 parts: broker, vet, carrier to broker, vets, carrier to ensure they have chains, straps for load. Driver execute load securement. Shipper review loads before driver leaves. Shipper calls, broker issues. There's a lot of moving parts in that. Indy to St. Louis, flat or step. Okay, we can do that. You want an average lane? All right, Indy to St. Louis. St. Louis. Evidently, I got to spell out Saint. Saint. For flatbed. Get rate. 242 miles. 393 is the average rate. 581 was the high, and 252 was the low. So that's not bad. You're welcome, Trucker Voice. Yes, Axel, I have a great relationship with them. They were my number 2 call. Excellent. It's extremely difficult to get into contact with them. Pepsi gave up. Yeah, I mean, look, you look at their comment section and they have like 18 phone numbers, to go through. And so a lot of times I just go to the email and it's usually pretty quick on the email. Now you lose the personal aspect of it. And then once you're on their load, then you've got the real number, right? Then you've got their direct number. And that's usually the best way to communicate. I've had good luck with Pepsi in the past. I have not done a Pepsi load in a while. but I've had decent luck with them in the past. Why are you shouting, Shannon? All right. This is the naive broker asking, will your long-term mechanic negotiate if you bring several repairs, offer a discount, say on labor or parts if you explain how markets rates down and up? Nope. You might have a personal mechanic that might give you a pass on something, or like, oh, okay, we went and take care of that. We didn't charge you for that. If you have that relationship, but if you're in the middle of nowhere somewhere and you have no other choice and you had to take the truck to the dealer because you blew a turbo in Cheyenne, Wyoming, they might feel sorry for you, but if your truck's in the shop, things that you can negotiate is if you have an OIDA membership, you can get a discount. Maybe your carrier, like I got a discount through Schneider. And then also, one of the shops that I use was writing me up as Landstar because Landstar had a better discount. So, and the other thing, I'm going to point this out, and I mentioned this to Shannon the other day. Let's say you're an owner operator for a mega carrier like Schneider, Dart, Swift, Prime, but you're an owner operator or a lease operator. Let that shop know when you put it in that you are the sole person responsible for the finances of that truck. So that way the shop doesn't just rack up, because I'm telling you right now, like when I was at Landstar and I would bring in a trailer for a 120-day inspection, they saw dollar signs. You know why? Because I cannot leave that shop until anything wrong that they find in that 120-day inspection is fixed. It's the same way for the truck. And there were times when I brought a trailer in that was fine, and next thing you know, it's got all new tires, all new brakes, all new rotors, or drums. So it's because it says Landstar, and they know that Landstar will pay the bill. But if you come in and say, "Hey, I have to pay for this," then they're going to be like, "Well, okay, well, you could probably get by with this. You can probably get by with that." You do that every week, every day. Awesome. Booked Coyote multiple stop to Minnesota. Bring on the cold. Yeah, and the snow, Randy, and the snow. When searching for TMS software, lane search history would be a key feature to look for. That is true. North Carolina, TNS. I would ask for pictures of the load securement before they leave the shipper. Sorry I'm late. You can start now. Thank you, TBT. Thanks for showing up. Side topic, I built a DIY firewood stand, 4 feet equals 6 pieces of 8 by 2 by 4, 8-inch long. Here's a link. There you go. You need 3.5 to 2.5 screws. I built a couple hours Sunday. Yeah, firewood's going to be important this year, folks. Yeah, bitches. Big Rig CEO announcing his presence. Hope you're recovering from your fire pit. I don't take my truck anywhere but to Swift. They are a ripoff, especially Freightliner. Yeah, and that's good that they have a good platform for the lease ops over there, Fran. At Schneider, you used to get. I mean, there was a time where if you had an SFI truck, you got treated just like a company truck as far as repairs go. But then now you're lower on the totem pole. And I'll give you an example, especially if you're an outside owner op like I was. I went in and failed their 90-day inspection on the front brakes. So yeah, we won't be able to fix it for at least 3 days. My suggestion is go to the TA across the street, and we'll let you do that. Now, had that been Landstar, I wouldn't have been able to move at all. I would be stuck at that shop getting that fixed, which, it's brakes. You should get it fixed. So I ended up going across the street and get it fixed at TA. It cost me a day, but, there were still plenty of loads. This was in Dallas. Just booked another load, so I'm good until the 26th. Man, look at you going, Britt. I kind of miss the days. I mean, so what's today? 17th? Yeah, I miss the days when, I mean, that's literally a week and a half. Schneider was always like probably about, I think the most it was 4 or 5 days ahead. And it usually fell apart at the end. So, but anyways, guys, you guys got, let's see, I think we've covered all the hot loads. So let's look at the DAT real quick. Let me unshare this. And look at the load volumes. Now, something to consider. And yes, I promote 123, but I also utilize the DAT as well. I have a lot of tools. There's a lot of low boards out there. All right, so let's reshare the screen. All right, so doink, doink. There it is. Okay, load volumes. This is for van. See how the ratio is in Alabama? No good, no good. Arkansas is not too bad. Cali, guys, pay attention to this. Nevada, if you're watching, Mrs. Nevada. Cali sucks right now coming out for van. You're getting your money going in. There's 2,890 loads going in and only 1,576 coming out. So pay attention to that. If you have a broker that's still lowballing you to go into California, then they're not paying attention either, or they're hoping that you don't pay attention. Florida, 2,729 going in. That number is extremely high because of that hurricane. 750 coming out. Reefer, it's even worse. Georgia's kind of evened up a little bit, but this will change. Guys, this is updated by the hour. Or by the minute, actually. And last week I saw Georgia go from a decent ratio to a horrible ratio within 2 hours. And so Shannon sent me a video about AI, and I don't know what it was talking about because I haven't watched it yet, but you have brokers and platforms using AI to predict when trucks will be, when the surge and the decrease of trucks and what times. I mean, you have a lot of tools being used against you. And this changes by the minute. Illinois is 1601 going in and 2539 out. So if you're the kind of guy that wants to make 20 phone calls, you have some leverage here. Especially if it's going to an area that's not great. Kansas isn't bad. Kentucky's not bad. Look at Kentucky show up for a minute. Now these are Monday ratios. This will be different at noon. Massachusetts, no bueno. Maine, look at Maine, 55 in, 253 out. Sage, do you know what industry that is in the van? What that would be? If you're even still watching? 'Cause that's where he lives. Missouri's pretty good. Of course. New Jersey. Remember on the 123, New Jersey was green? Well, here it's green here too. 737 in and 1119 coming out. So that's a good spot. You've got a little bit of leverage, but you also have to take into account though is Maine, like all these other Northeast states, people are going to flock to Jersey, so that will soften that market a little bit. So you don't have as much leverage as it looks on this number. New York's looking pretty good. Ohio. Now this is what kind of got me angry. Friday, these ratios were the same. 1467, 2347 out. And they still weren't negotiating. I had smug brokers telling me that they're going to sell it for that $500 less. and so cocky about it. They're like, no, no, you'll be calling me. I won't call you. It's a good way to get blacklisted on my phone call list. Pennsylvania 1544. Steve Berger, if you're watching, 2044 coming out. So these are good volumes. I mean, they're better than they've been. Tennessee is about even, minus 100. Texas 39.16, 35.75 out. But they've been pushing the rates down in Texas for quite a while, like more than normal. Like, it used to be normal that, okay, you take a hit coming out of Texas, but now they're like, we're going to make a career of it. And then you got Wisconsin 8.13 in and 15.14 out. So, and what's interesting is that when I look at our ELD, our trucks are all in these green states, all of them, almost all of them. That's where they're running. And if they're running in Colorado or Arizona, it's because they got a broker up their sleeve. But I also don't have much problem with my truck. She's a very good truck. There you go. Thanks for the heads up. Now, okay, so what Mrs. Nevada is talking about is that I said, watch your rates coming out of Cali. Now, you have leverage. You guys have leverage because you're a team. So that sets you apart different than everybody else. So post your truck as a team, anytime, anywhere team. If you had someone fall off your load, we're the rescue people. And you'll have phone calls. That's the good news about those numbers. Edgewood, good morning, my hero. I don't know about that. I've never saved anybody. Have you done a video on AB5 effective owner? No. Here's why, James. For a minute, AB5 became a hot topic of discussion. It became an arguing point. It became a trigger point. So I won't even touch it because number one, I have not read up on it other than what Oida has sent me and what other YouTubers have talked about. And number two, there's nothing I can do about that. I have no control. Do I have a plan in place if something doesn't go my way? Absolutely, I do. Is it right that they're doing it? Absolutely not. But there's literally nothing I can do. So I am so burned out on the AB5 discussion that when it directly affects me, then maybe it'll be a topic of discussion for me. But there are people that have done their homework on that have done a way better video than I could have. I learned the hard way not to do a video on something I know nothing about by following the trends. When Swift and Knight merged, I did a video on that. I was completely off base. I didn't know what I was talking about, and I did it for clicks, and it didn't even give me clicks, so I deleted the video. So, but as far as AB5, that could be a bad deal depending on how you're set up. So my suggestion when it comes to AB5, look at the big carriers on how they're going to handle it. What does Prime have in place to deal with that? What does Schneider have in place to deal with that? Because those companies are always a step ahead of these regulations. Always. The ATA's got their foot in the door. So they will have a solution. And then you just got to see if you can do the same thing. Especially these companies that their entire platform or majority of their platform are the lease operators. Jason, what's up? Bottled water out of Maine. Pancake syrup. Seems like truckers can get rid of using load boards and brokers. They can. You have that ability, Fran. I know I'm not you, but I mean, yeah, everybody has that ability. There you go. You guys are learning. That's good. And that's how you're going to make your money. Mrs. TBT, what's up? Max Force, you are late, but I'm glad you're here. It might be better if truckers talk to shippers directly instead of going through a broker. Interesting. Thanks. Look, so that's talked about a lot, Jason. And for some people that might be better. But here's the thing, and this is going to sound bad. All right, this is important. A large percentage of drivers don't know their numbers, they don't know their costs, they don't know their rate lane averages, and they don't know how to negotiate. That is why it's a struggle for most drivers to get that direct freight. For example, if let's say French's Mustard here in Springfield, Missouri calls you up and says, "Hey man, I like your carrier, man. Your driver came in, he represented you well, he gave me a business card. I want you to do some direct freight because I'm tired of dealing with, you know, ABC broker." Do you know how to quote that? Because obviously he's going to quote the number that's lower than what the broker was paying. That he was paying the broker, right? Do you know the numbers for that lane? If they were to do that, let's say they go, well, we've got 20 loads of mustard that are going to all points in Michigan to all the Costco and Meyer distribution centers. Costco, Meyer, and Walmart. Can you handle that? Well, I could do one a week over to Detroit. Meanwhile, one of the local Springfield companies come in and like, we could drop 10 trailers. We'll have that done for you, sir. Thank you very much. So it's not that easy. Usually, if you find a direct shipper, it's going to be a small mom and pop place, and that's not going to be steady enough freight. And then let's say your truck breaks down. Now you're breaking that contract if you don't have the ability to put it on somebody else. So it depends on how the contract's negotiated. Now, first dibs, that's something that could be done. Where, let's say French's goes, hey, we'll give you a list every Monday morning. Tell us what you can do and for how much. Okay, give me that one that's on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday going up to Chicago. I'll get that done for you. But then if you don't have that backhaul from Chicago going right back to Springfield to line up those times, what do you do about that? You're going to deadhead back? Is the rate that you're getting to go to Chicago, will that be sustainable if you're only deadheading back? These are the things that people have to understand. And when you have people out here in the spot market that don't even put pen to paper to do their own numbers, that's a lot of responsibility for someone that's just kind of winging it out here in the spot market. Is it practical? Right. Certified hostage negotiator. Anyone ever have a trailer held hostage? Give me a call. Wow, TVT. Charles Anderson did. He might be in one of the Zello groups. Chucky, if you're watching. That's true. Believe it or not, I negotiate sometimes with Swift on certain loads, and I usually get what I want. TBT Snorelord and said earlier that Mr. Charles had trailer held for 30 days. Also, get direct freight. You need tools to review customer credit. You need to get a big credit line, as to not all shippers will accept factoring invoices. Then you need tools to issue invoices and track payments. There you go. So it's not. Is it a great strategy? Yeah, but you have to be equipped and you have to have the knowledge to execute that. Now, one of the things I've heard, TBT, is that if the Raycon says it's not a drop trailer, then I've heard of people actually calling the cops, calling state patrol and say, hey, these people will not give me my property back. And that will usually, I've heard that it can expedite a situation. It might even report it stolen. That's true because believe it. Okay, I already read that. Let's see, 30 days. Wow, ridiculous. Jason says I have wild hair if my trailer was held longer than 3 days. Yep. Yeah, I could. When I haul copper out of Reading, customers are always in the plumbing business. Certain types of industries are a good way to stay in to keep and build customers. It goes back to what I was saying earlier this live feed about find the industry that needs to move regardless of what the market is doing, regardless of what the economy is doing. If you're doing retail, if you do nothing but construction materials and construction slows down, yeah, you're going to see a slowdown if you're flatbed. But look, if you're hauling nothing but like steel or brass, and we get into a battle situation overseas, guess what? You're about to get rich because they're going to need that. They're going to need all that metal. They're going to need all that steel. So, all right, guys, this is the end of the feed. I think we've had a good discussion. Have a battle plan for this week, and hopefully you're already booked out if you can possibly do it. The days of waiting for that broker to be desperate to move something at the last minute, those days are over. Those are for now, not permanently, but the odds of you finding that one broker, unless you have a relationship with them, are pretty slim. If you factor loads today, you're changing to direct customers, adjust your business plan to wait 30 days, 60 days on payments, right? You don't have to factor that direct customer, but just know that it might be 30 to 60 days, and you'll still have to check their credit. Absolutely true. Let's see. Have a wonderful day. Rock on. All right, guys. I appreciate everybody coming in. 48065 is the code for 123 low board. Gives you 30 days for free, and then access to all the tools for $35 a month after that. And there's way more tools that I'm not even showing here. One of these days we'll have to do like a full-blown demo. Thanks for everybody for coming in. It's gonna be we're gonna see how this week plays out, and if you're feeling beaten up, well, scuff yourself off and dust yourself off and get back up and get to it. You'll be all right. Hope for today, strength for today. I always mix that up. Strength for today, hope for tomorrow. So I'll leave you with the soothing sounds of just beautiful serenity, peace.